What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for June 10th, 2024. We still have no updates for 323.1 going to live or 323.2 being an Evo Cadi. The monthly report was pretty cool, though, and people are still raging about master modes. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put it into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike. So stop by and say hello if you haven't yet. Don't have any ads this week. They will be coming back next week. So if you want to go above and beyond like many people have, feel free to hit the join button. And yeah, it would be really cool. So without further ado, we got some patches to talk about. So let's go into patch updates. All right, we only had 2 patches this week, so we'll start out with Monday. We had a PTU 323.1a patch, and it's starting to feel like Groundhog Day. Third week in a row that the focus testing is on Xenothreat and Jumptown. I mean, the bug fix list is only 2 lines short. What I'll say is when we're out of ship sale cycles, it's really nice to see them take their time and try to get something right. Now, what they are trying to get right, we'll talk about in just a second, but this happens to be using an event to excite us that we've done 3,000 times and the story's still the same, and it's never really quite worked perfectly either. Thursday, we got a patch, and it is still Xenothreat and GT focused, no 323.2 in sight, but we have to pay attention to the core tech changes in both patches. It's related to frame timing. There was also a memory leak mentioned in a message of the day. So they aren't trying to just fix Xeno, they're trying to fix the game. Criticisms I'm mostly seeing is that they're holding back fixes and holding back 323.2. It's probably not these blockers that are blocking 323.2. It's probably 323.2's own blockers. But the valid one is exploit fixes that they should be fixing in this 323.1a patch, but the patch isn't going live, so you're allowing these exploits to continue to exist on live and ruin the game. Players want to play the game, but players aren't able to recognize that we are still in an alpha and things like that as well. So it shouldn't matter that much to have these exploits. For me personally, it's how they address the next patch. Are you going to roll back players' money? Are you going to wipe again? That's more what I'm concerned about. But that's what we have for patches. Not that much. It was a slow week as far as that went, but what's coming up next was basically the meat of the info this week, and that's the monthly report. All right, we'll start out with AI tech, and I normally wouldn't bring this up, but I think it's a good reminder of the fact that CitizenCon isn't that far away, and everything shown last year is having a much harder time getting into live than we thought it would in October. Character art. They're working on specialists and utility armors. All we really know in terms of what this could mean is, again, what we heard from CitizenCon last year, is that armor types will determine what can be slotted into them. Also, we have the first type now, which is the combat visor. So we get a little taste of it. Then ship art, the final touches in terms of art are being put on the Zeus, which I think they said is set to release in 4.0. And 3 more just entered white box. Well, a lot of ships are coming, right? I wonder how many of these are the ones that we saw at the CitizenCon showcase. But when we see it, most of those are done now. So it's probably quite a few new or backlog ships. Which ones do you want them to be working on? And then core gameplay. Well, we start out with the multi-tool. It doesn't look like what we talked about last week is going to be the squadron tool. It's more like they want to put the primary on left mouse button and the secondary on right mouse button. And I'll be rebinding these. Right click is aim down sights for me, so I'm used to that and I wouldn't want to change it. We gain a small amount of more info around resource network and engineering and things that we saw kind of on the roadmap last week. Just a little bit more info there. They're making quantum travel work with meshing. Jump drive failures are going to be a thing, and I think kind of you'll likely be left somewhere random in the destination system if you do fail. There was a ton written about scanning, so feel free to pause here if you need to, but it's a lot of words, but not a lot about how we're going to use it yet. They're going to test FPS scanning and radar in Arena Commander, though, it seems. More about AC. We're getting an EVA-only map, and trust me, we need this. Gunplay in EVA is horrible right now, just in a different way than it was horrible in the past. So this will really help with that and get it dialed in real nice. And then Horde mode looks like it might move forward. Lastly, we got this image of the new Freight Manager terminal. Hard to tell exactly what's going on here with all the UI elements, but I do think we get the gist of it. I just want it in my hands. I just want to play it, right? Economy, yes. The team that I kind of have to put all my faith in, but I'm not so sure on yet, right? They're still working on what appears to be a 4.0 big overhaul of mission payouts and things with this algorithm they're mentioning, and I really hope the shop refactor that they're mentioning here fixes all the horrible experiences we have with it right now. But more waiting on them. But what we have in the game right now, I'm not so sure. I'm fully on board with a lot of the changes that they're making. Interactables is next, and we saw more final art of liquid containers and a generator for a mission. Mission design is up, and they are figuring out how they want to handle when we abandon cargo missions. It's kind of interesting. First, it sounds like they're going to give us an option to drop it off at a closer location for less pay. And then after that, if we wait too long, it's going to be marked as stolen. Server meshing work was mentioned as well, and repair missions in Pyro using Resource Network. That's all I have for the monthly report. Obviously, there is much more in it, so feel free to check out the link in the description. And there was also a React video on my React channel of it that has a little bit more detail there as well. So moving on, video updates. So we did get a Star Citizen Live this week, even though we were expecting not to, but it was a game dev episode about concept ships, and they've done this many times now. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch it, all right? It's not my cup of tea, but we're expecting to not have video content for weeks, and we got some, right? So I know people do really like this kind of content, so good on them, right? I talked about how I was frustrated that they're not being consistent. We only had 1 week off without video content. I got nothing but good things to say about this, right? Even though it's not really my cup of tea, that's no big deal. But with that said, that's all we have for video updates this week, right? Since there's nothing really to pull out and share about the game for you, but let's move on to other updates. And naturally, we start out with the sneak peek when we get a cave. And what we'll see in this image is likely the extent of the content that will be in them based on the history around all locations that come in the game. Caves are one of the many examples of locations coming to the game with very little depth of content within them, right? Most of the locations do not have a lot of depth. Dev posts. Players are not happy with mission payouts. So Nico responded to let them know that missions will be getting a rebalance based on their popularity and profitability in 4.0, which we heard about in the monthly report. But they've been mostly reducing payouts, not increasing them, so these players still might not be very happy. But we're also likely getting a glimpse at these changes in 323.2 with cargo missions. Speaking of cargo missions, players asked about smaller outposts and freight elevators, and Jake confirmed that they will be in 323.2 and shared a sneak peek from a while back showing them, right? But they're open and kind of small in comparison to the freight elevators in your hangar. And lastly, was a post where people were mad that devs talk in discords. I know I've had issues with that in my own. Yogi basically stated information that was already said before, and he just reiterates on some of the comments in the thread. And basically, there's going to be changes in 323.2. I think one of them is the Hornet gets fixed there, and the focus is on 4.0 and 4.1 content for them because, well, Resource Network is coming and it's going to change the way weapons work and everything works. So it's a lot of work on their plate. Then for Subflare, yeah, I hate this one, but it's extremely kind of a dedicated role of armor, I guess we should call it. Not sure if it'll be radiation or maybe there'll be some sort of biohazards in the game at some point. If that's the case, you're going to get something similar to this for in-game purchase. It'll just be less flary. And that'll do it for this week. So I just want to thank you for watching. I am feeling a lot better than I was last week, but as you can probably hear, I'm still a little bit congested. But I had a very rough week. I didn't really play the PTU at all because I was in bed. I had a fever for 4 to 5 days in a row. It was really, really tough. So thank you for all your well wishes in the comments. It was awesome. Made me feel a lot better that you guys actually care and aren't just like, give me my news. So like the video if you liked it, guys. Subscribe for more weeks in review and comment down below just how Are you playing? Are you guys playing right now? I'm really checked out at the moment. I'm just waiting for 323.2, and I can't wait anymore. I cannot wait.